Welcome to NewsWatch. This week was Panorama's report on Wi-Fi, sound science or scaremongering, and fawning and sycophantic comments on a BBC interview with Libya's Muammar Gaddafi. On Monday, Panorama reported on wireless computer technology, suggesting it could be more dangerous than mobile phone masts. It was a particular concern, the programme said, because Wi-Fi is in use in more than half of schools.
Right. This is where they sit.
Right.
And they're already all logged on.
Oh yes, it's logged onto the network, yes. Okay.
So take the measurement if you can.
So let's make sure this is set on the right scale and we will download a file. Okay, yes, that's quite spectacular.
Is it?
Yes. Yeah. That's about 3 times what we were getting near that phone mast.
Panorama featured a number of scientists who were concerned that Wi-Fi could be harmful, and also spoke to people who say they are electrosensitive, physically affected by electromagnetic fields. But it was the science used in the report that concerned many viewers. Chris Gallagher said this programme was a disgrace and was the worst example of journalism I have ever seen on the BBC. It had no scientific or journalistic merit and seemed intent on fabricating sensationalist panic. And Fraser McIntosh told us.
It seemed to be entirely constructed to prove that Wi-Fi is potentially harmful rather than to genuinely investigate whether or not it is. The programme continually used emotive terms such as radiation, which, while correct, are poorly understood by many people and often associated with radioactivity. This was not helped by the use of computer graphics showing Wi-Fi radiation pervading into people's everyday lives without their knowledge or consent.
Paul Kenyon, you were the Panorama reporter involved here. Viewers have pointed out that it's not right and ignores the basic laws of physics to compare radiation from 100 metres away from a mast and 1 metre away from a computer. Have they got a point?
Well, I think the main point of the programme really was that we had the government's chief scientist, Sir William Stewart, who has, in a previous report, said that he's concerned about mobile phone mast radiation falling on any part of a school's playing grounds. Now, at that point, that was 4 or 5 years ago when he made those comments, we decided that what we'd do is try and investigate whether or not Wi-Fi had a similar level of radiation. We find it had slightly more, still well beneath...
But what viewers have said, it's completely wrong to go 100 metres away from a mast and compare the readings with 1 metre. They're not the same. They're not the same things.
Well, I'm told they are the same thing. I mean, we have to rely on the scientists who we use as consultants for programmes like this. But a number of scientists I spoke to this morning again, just to check, 100 metres from the mast is seen as the main beam of radiation. It's rather like a lighthouse coming down where the light hits the floor. We took it at the highest point of radiation and compared it with where a child's head would be coming out of Wi-Fi.
These readings were taken by a lobbyist. Why didn't you get someone completely independent to do them for you?
What we did was we used this man who you call a lobbyist purely to take the readings. We didn't get him to comment on anything at all. So he wasn't interpreting.
Why not stay completely out of the battle, as it were, and get someone totally independent? Why didn't you do that?
With hindsight, maybe this was something that we could have done differently. Maybe it would have been an idea to get Alistair Phillips to do some readings and another scientist to do the others. So I accept that as a fair criticism.
Another criticism from viewers, and there are really quite a large number of these criticisms, that you went to Norwich and took readings there, but good science has a control. You didn't go to a city without Wi-Fi hotspots and and made a comparison. Why was that?
Norwich wasn't used as a comparison with anything else. We went to Norwich purely for the school, but whilst we were there, because it's a hotspot, we decided also to look at the radiation on the street. We didn't make a big point of that. It's so far beneath the limits, it's not all that relevant. But this is a place where people haven't had a lot of say in it, but they're living in an area where there are higher levels of radiation than perhaps other cities. It's beneath the limits. So
another thing that the viewers noticed, that they were 23 minutes into this programme before an alternative point of view was given, and that scientist, Mike Rapiccioli, was then in a sense rubbished because it was made clear that he had been employed by the industry. Why no independent source putting a different point of view? And we've looked into your main Swedish scientist, and 1,600 Swedish scientists voted him the misleader of the year.
Did they?
In 2004.
That's not good.
For his views on electromagnetism, the very subject your programme. I mean, there seems to be an imbalance here between you're right to prove something rather than an objective study.
I take your point, and I didn't know that about Professor Johansen at all. But the position was really that there is a mainstream accepted view on this, and I think it's a role that Panorama can play to question that mainstream a sort of accepted cultural norm.
Can you really do it without putting the alternative point of view?
I think we did put the alternative view. It was there in script lines. We kept saying this is, you know, it's still a minority of people who feel this, etc., etc. So, but I understand what you're saying. It's a fair point. But we were there to, as I say, to question the mainstream opinion at the moment, which I think we did fairly well. And I keep coming back to just one final point. When Sir William Stewart, the government's chief advisor, tells us that he's concerned, I think he's an eminent enough a scientist for us to be able to take that as something Panorama ought to be reporting, which is all we did, in effect.
Viewers have also pointed out that there are a large number of products in our homes that give out low-level radiation, including, some said, broadcast radio and television. So those actually watching your program might have been getting a small dose of electroradiation. Isn't this a bit of a problem that you singled out Wi-Fi?
Well, these are very low levels of radiation. I mean, a lot lower than comes out of Wi-Fi. The point about Wi-Fi, and the reason that there haven't been any studies done on the health effects of Wi-Fi, it's new, but it's also pulsing radiation. And the only other form of pulsing radiation that we come into contact with frequently is from mobile phone masts. So it's a very different concept. And that, I must say, is why Sir William Stewart is of the view that there ought to be a review, purely because it's pulsing.
Paul Kenyon, thank you very much indeed.